So this year I've spent a lot less time putting in the off season. Last year I retooled my entire putt and I spent a ton of time in the garage putting endlessly, like literally over 1,000 putts a day on some days. And I had a really good rhythm. Everything felt really good, and going into the season, my putt felt amazing and dialed. This year, I didn't do that as much. I basically played no disc golf at all. And so starting the season, my putt definitely felt a little bit off to start the year. And it's taken me a little bit of time to get back into the swing of things and really feel like my putt is confident again. And in that time, in the past month or so, I've found 3 things that have really helped me feel really confident on my putt. And with the conditions that we have, I mean, today it's absolutely beautiful, but the conditions that we can have a lot of the times in April and May, and with just how difficult putting can be come tournament day, these 3 things have been really helpful to me in making sure I'm confident that I'm making these, 25, 30 footers more frequently and getting those strokes on the field that I really feel like I should be getting. So first and foremost, the one thing that I think I talked about on this channel a little bit already is creating a routine for yourself. Now, I think there's a couple things that can go into this. You don't want to just mindlessly do a routine. I mean, you kind of do. Any routine is going to work, but you want to do something that you can repeat pretty easily without really thinking about it too much. And then by the end of the routine, you feel comfortable enough to be throwing the putt. So someone like Cupcake, for example, would be a great example of someone who really doesn't have a routine. He just stands there with the putter in his hand and kind of just pump fakes away over and over. Now, a little bit of a misconception about a routine that I want to clear up is it's not exactly a set thing where you have to go right away when you throw it every single time. Some people might think of it that way. I still want to make sure I'm mentally ready to putt before I do, but I'll kind of do, a little sort of pump fake, and then I do a one hand, no disc in hand, just to kind of feel like I'm getting the hand out to the right way, and then I kind of aim the disc. And then, there might be a couple other like little pump fakes or whatever, but once I've kind of gone through that motion of disc in hand, kind of pointing it at the basket, feeling where the release point's going to be, just feeling the motion of my hand without the disc in it, and then just kind of, again, pointing at where I want to be, usually around that point, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go, and then I'll go for it. It doesn't look exactly the same every single time. There's a bit of variation to it. For like a 10 footer, I'm obviously gonna speed it up a little bit. And for like maybe a 40 footer, maybe I'm gonna, depending on the situation, spend a little bit more time if I feel like it's kind of a tricky putt, if I'm running something with some danger behind the basket. But generally speaking, I'm trying to get through those motions. And then once I kind of do, I'm in the rhythm of putting. I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm doing the thing that I do when I'm putting. And then it gets me in the right headspace. Additionally, sort of mental things to keep in mind during your routine. What are you looking at? What are you thinking about? I'm thinking, I'm gonna make this putt, and I'm looking at a chain link. I'm picking out a chain link. So if I feel a right to left wind, I'm gonna pick a chain link slightly to the right of the pole, and I'm gonna stare at that chain link. If there's a tailwind, I'm gonna pick a chain link a little bit higher. If there's a headwind, I might pick one a little bit lower. There's different things you could do, but you should make sure not only are you doing that routine, but don't do it mindlessly. Make sure you're doing the routine, you're comfortable with it, and you're mentally in the zone. You're picking that link, you're all set up and everything. And so whatever you gotta do, create a short routine for yourself that you can go through. Maybe iterate on it a couple of times, and then get used to doing that when you step up and putt. And I think you'll realize that once you have that little routine for yourself, you go from maybe being worried about the putt or, having different thoughts. But once I step up to the basket, at that point, once this hand goes up, I feel like I'm kind of at, like, okay, here we go. We're about to putt, we're about to throw this in. And it gets me to the point where I'm comfortable letting the disc leave my hands. And I'm gonna be honest, like, I'll have 10, 15 footers if there's a little bit of wind. At the tournament I played most recently, the basket spit out on me really badly a couple of times. Like, I would be nervous on like easy putts, like little 15 footers. But because I was so comfortable with my routine, I got myself to just let go of the disc, and they always ended up going in. I never really missed any like super short putts. And so even if you're feeling a little bit unconfident in your putt, which can happen, the routine can make up for that and can make you still get to the point where the disc is coming out of your hand the way you want it to. Without that routine, if you're unconfident, everything's gonna feel off. And that's where I see people just kind of step up, and they're nervous, and they kind of just jam it forward, or just kind of airball it off to the side a little bit. I threw that one in on accident. But I definitely see it all the time where people don't have a set routine that they do, or even like a semblance of a routine, and then when they start to get nervous, there's no rhythm to their putt. It's just either taking forever to let go of it or just stepping up and going and just it going all over the place. Number 2 is a cue that I've kind of started to incorporate a little bit more mentally recently, and I haven't really heard a ton of people talk. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about this cue before, and it's probably been one of the most useful for me, and that is drawing a line mentally between the bottom of your swing and the top of your swing and making sure that line is going at the basket. It seems intuitive, but to think about it this way I think is really powerful, because if your release is good, if you're not like letting the disc grab onto your finger or something, if that line is at the basket, you're not missing left or right. If I'm confident that I'm drawing that line and I'm recreating it, I'm just thinking about the power. I'm just thinking about how much weight I want to put behind my putt. And so I think, okay, I want the disc to release here. I'm going to come down here, so I want this line to be like that. I want the line to be in that direction, and that's going to point straight at the basket. I don't really have to think about how I'm following through, what I'm doing with the rest of my body, how I'm pointed. I mean, all of those things are important, but really, all of that follows because I've put the practice in. But in the moment, I just want to make sure that line is directly at the basket. I think it's also really good to have like mental checks for yourself. Like, am I putting the right way directly at the basket? And I think this is a really good way to do that. If I'm drawing that line properly, we're good. But sometimes you can see people kind of go to putt and their arm releases out to the right, or they let go of it a little bit early and it comes out to the left. And I see people doing this all the time. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it too. Someone's a little bit off on their putt and maybe they release the disc kind of out here, out to the right, because they're not extending their arm out, and they kind of just go out like this, or they're a little scared and they just release it like this. If you're thinking about that line, if I'm putting directly at you and I'm thinking about that line and making sure I'm going from the middle, straight line forward towards the basket, and doing that every single time, it's going to ensure that you're at least putting at the basket. It's going to increase your percentage of made putts drastically. And the last thing, because my miss is often not giving it enough power, not really giving enough weight behind the disc, especially on like the longer sort of circles edge putts, the thing that's been helping me a lot with this, and also having my putts feel more effortless, because putting too much effort into your putts is going to create more room for error. The cue I've been doing is really making sure I'm popping the disc forward with my fingers under the disc. It can be kind of easy to just sort of like go forward and let go of the disc, and that's fine. Like from this distance, I'm basically doing that. Like I wasn't really popping the disc very much. I kind of just swung my arm and let go of it. But when I'm putting from a little further away and I want to make sure I'm getting the right weight behind it and really getting it to the basket and like putting it on that line, I really like to emphasize that feeling of the disc, just that little motion right there. I'm not really curling my wrist. The only time I ever curl my wrist is if I'm like jump putting from probably outside C2, or if I'm straddle putting, just because I don't get as much movement with my body, so I'll curl my wrist a little bit. But for like a normal putt inside the circle or like 45 feet away, I'm really not curling my wrist. I'm just thinking about the fingers popping up and pushing the disc forward at the end of the swing of my hand. And this is how I think I get a lot of that forward motion. So paired with that line that I'm drawing, I'm making sure at that end of that line, I'm just popping my fingers forward and I'm pushing the disc towards the basket by, it's these 3 fingers right here under the disc. These 3 fingers are just pushing the disc forward towards my target. And so when I'm putting from like a little bit further away, I'm really making sure that I have that pop at the end. And that has a little chain out in the practice basket. It has that little bit of extra pace on it. It's gonna make your percentages from a little bit further away be significantly better. So yeah, it's just a short little video, just what I've been working on with my putting lately. I think my putting has been one of the best parts of my game recently. I've saved a ton of strokes, making putts from like circles edge all the time. And I think these 3 things have been instrumental for that. So hopefully this helps some of you do a little bit better on the putting green, and you can get that circle 1 percentage up. See you next time.